Hey, how's it going? My name is Martin Benson, and I want to thank you so much for your interest in Actor Screener Shoot. So this video I'm putting together just to kind of help people come up with scene ideas. It's so frequent that people are, they'll sign up for a session, a consultation with us, and they'll say, you know what? I just need footage because I need to get an agent or I need to get a manager or start being able to submit myself for more productions and be seen more. But when I ask them, like, okay, so what are you looking to shoot? They're usually like, well, I'm honestly not sure. I'm just kind of tossing around some ideas right now. And while that's fine, I hate when people essentially like when they shoot something that doesn't actually work well for their brand. Actors, if you pick something that doesn't really work properly for you, you're going to wind up finding that 6 months from now, you're either booking roles or like auditioning for things that you don't really want to be a part of, or you're just constantly going out for auditions, and because the characters aren't fitting within your natural brand, you're just never booking anything, even if your performance is good. It's almost like if you shoot the wrong type of scene for your demo reel, it's kind of like shooting a headshot and getting it overly retouched where you don't look like yourself. So you're going out for all these auditions and you're always wondering why like nobody's ever hiring you. And that's because you just don't look like what they were expecting. So that's why it's really important to come up with scene ideas that fit within your brand. So I'm going to explain the process and just kind of, kind of go along with it. If you want, you could pause the video right now. I'd like for you to just grab a pen and a paper because I have a 3-part question for you, or 3 questions that each have like 2 parts or whatever. And essentially we're gonna come up with a brand, and then I'm gonna show you how you can kind of break that brand down into scene ideas. And I'll even go a little bit deeper. I'll also show you, because I work with a lot of actors for marketing and branding and stuff to help them book more work. I'll show you a couple of cool tactics you can use that brand to help you book more auditions or even for a headshot session, let's say. So here's how it works. The first question, what we're going to do again, we're going to find a brand. I call it a 5-word brand. A lot of actors who do branding classes, sometimes they come back with like so many different words and so many different things that it can kind of feel a little bit overwhelming. And while it's great to have all of that and to understand all of that stuff about yourself, sort of simplifying it down to just a couple of key words can kind of make it like, oh, I get it. I'm going to use it now. So the 5-word brand consists of 3 parts. We've got your pride words, we've got your dark word, and we've got your type, okay? So your pride words are gonna be words about you that describe you, the best aspects of your personality, words that you, when you think about them and feel them, you feel really good. You feel really proud and grounded. Then you've got your dark word, which is kind of a word that I like to say, maybe it doesn't describe you like, because sometimes people hear their dark word and like, I don't know about that. But it's good to be aware of the dark word because it can allow you to make your characters and your scenes more interesting or more compelling. And then you've got your type. Most actors have a few different types depending on how they're dressed or what they're styling their hair like that day. Your type is generally, I would say again, like 3 to 4 types, and it's really based on what you look like and how the industry sees you. So the difference between a brand and a type is that your type is like your physical appearance, and your brand is kind of your physical appearance combined with your personality. So let's get started. The first question, again, make sure that you have a pen and paper to write these words down. The first question I want you to answer, I want you to first think of someone in your mind who you know personally, who you very much admire, okay? So just take a second to think, press pause on the video, and when you're ready, come back. Once you've got someone in mind who you very much admire. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have someone in mind. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the question part of this. I told you they're kind of like 2-part questions. So the question is, I want you to think of 3 personality traits about them that you most admire. So let's pretend, for instance, you very much admire your mother. I don't know, right? Or maybe like your grandmother or something. Okay, so you admire your grandma, and the three personality traits about her that you admire are she's hardworking, she's loving, and she's funny, let's say. Hardworking, loving, and funny. Now, some people make the mistake of not choosing adjectives, and we need them to be personality trait adjectives. So you wouldn't say, you wouldn't say she's a comedian or something because that's a noun. You would say she's funny, right? Or you wouldn't say she works very hard. You would say she's hardworking, okay? So three adjectives that describe the elements of that person that you most deeply admire. So let's say again, hardworking, intelligent, and funny, or hardworking, loving, and funny. Now we're going to move on and we're going to go to types. So I want you to think, again, pause the video anytime you need to, but I want you to think now of what are 3 or 4 different types that you could see yourself playing. An example of a type would be a father, or a grandmother, or a student, or a best friend, or a girlfriend, cop, detective, sports player. Just throw more out there. Let's see. Barista, chef. Like there's a lot of different types. Think of a type as more of like an occupation or the role that the character plays in either the scene or the film itself, or the production itself. So, for instance, your type could be like I don't know, a hipster or like an artist type of person, or a psychiatrist, right? And it's usually based on what you're wearing, what kind of, like whether you have glasses or how long your hair is, all things like that, whether you're like built up or whether you're skinny, anything that kind of comes into play. I want you to just pause the video and write down 3 or 4 types. All right, now I'm assuming that you paused the video and you did that. Now we're going to move on to the final part, okay? I want you to think of someone who you really dislike, okay? So, again, just come up with someone in your mind. Take a minute to pause the video if you need. And then as soon as you come up with that person, I want you to think of the 3 personality traits about that person that you most dislike, okay? So, for instance, let's say that I picked my old friend who I'm not like friends with anymore, and I say like, well, he's selfish or self-centered. He's I don't even know, self-centered, rude, and I don't know, unintelligent. I don't know. So take a minute, pause, and write down the 3 personality traits about that person that you most dislike. Okay, now that you've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at those 3 personality traits that you wrote down that you most dislike, and I want you to think about which one of those accurately describes you when you're at your worst. So it's like, all right, yeah, I guess sometimes I can do blank. And yeah, sure, I'm not proud of it, but I guess that's, me. So in my case, maybe I would say like, oh, I guess like I'm not really rude. I'm not really obnoxious or whatever the other word was, or unintelligent. But I guess maybe sometimes I'm selfish. Okay, so I'll write down selfish as my dark word. And then you're going to pick out of your types, the 3 to 4 types that you wrote down, which one of those types do you most enjoy playing, okay? So let's say that you wrote down cop, father, or teacher or something. And you're like, well, honestly, out of all 3 of those, I most enjoy playing teacher. Okay, great. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take the 3 words that you wrote down about the person that you most admire, plus you're going to take your most liked type word, and you're going to take your dark word and you're going to combine them like so. The 3 pride words type, who can be dark word at times. So that would basically be the strong, loving, and determined teacher who can be selfish at times. Okay, as an example, or funny, funny, intelligent, and hardworking grandmother who can be condescending at times. I don't know. All right. So you just write it down in that formula, and now you've got what I call a 5-word brand. So again, pause the video if you need and create your write out your 5-word brand. Okay. So I'm assuming that you've got your 5-word brand created. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn it into scene ideas. Okay. So you've written down 3 or 4 types. What we want to do is we want to actually take those types now and break them up into scene ideas. So let's say that you had picked father, teacher, or cop, right? And those are 3 types that you came up with. Let's say that your goal is to shoot 2 scenes. You want to shoot 2 scenes for your reel. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, what types do we want to play, right? You want to play, you have cop, teacher, or father. Which out of those 2 do you think you would either get the most opportunities to audition for, or you would most enjoy playing? Okay, you want to do teacher as one, and maybe cop as another one, just to kind of have more variety, because teacher and father could be a little bit similar or something, right? So, all right, so we're going to do cop for one scene, and we're going to do father for the other scene, or teacher for the other scene. So cool. So now we've started to come up with something that fits within your brand. Now, let's say again, you're playing the smart, loving, and determined father who can be selfish at times, okay? So smart, loving, and determined are your 3 pride words, and selfish is your dark word. So what we're going to do is, let's say that you want to do 2 scenes, and you want one of your scenes to be more comedic and one to be more dramatic, which is pretty common, right? This way you get as much variety as possible. So usually people will take their dark word and they'll use it for the comedic scene, okay? So the word selfish, right? So we have the smart, loving, and determined father who can be selfish at times, or the smart, loving, and determined cop or teacher who can be selfish at times, right? So we're going to say smart, loving, and determined. We'll pick one of those words plus the word selfish, and then we'll pick the other 2 pride words for the other scene, for the more dramatic scene. So smart, loving, and determined, selfish. Let's do smart and selfish, and we'll do cop for the comedic scene. So I'm going to be the smart but selfish cop in one of my scenes, which is going to be a more comedic scene. And then for the other scene, I'm going to do the, smart, loving, and determined. So the loving and determined teacher, okay? So the loving and determined teacher is going to be for the more dramatic scene, and then the smart but selfish cop is going to be for the comedic scene, okay? So what we've done there is we've sort of broken up the words. If you're just doing one scene, you can pick and choose whichever words you want. You can try to work all of your words in. I don't usually recommend it. It could be a little bit much. If you're doing 3 scenes, then maybe 1 or 2 of the scenes will only use one of the words, and then one of the scenes will use 2, right? So you just kind of pick and choose the different words that you want for the scene, and then you can kind of come up with the concept from there. So for the smart but selfish cop, okay, well, what's possible to shoot? Well, think about locations and what's possible with, if you're working with us, we've got certain locations we can shoot at. If you're working with a different reel production company, they might have certain locations. So your job is to kind of now think like, all right, well, based on the locations, I want to shoot, let's say, in Manhattan, and so maybe I'll do that scene out on the street. Maybe I'm playing a cop who's giving someone a ticket for something, and the cop is saying certain things that are making him sound selfish, and it's coming off comedically, right? And so that's kind of an idea for one scene. Of course, you want to think of logistics as well. So in New York, you might need a special permit for someone to be able to wear a cop outfit outside. So maybe instead you want to play like a detective or something. Maybe that's another type that you can do. And this way you could be like more of a plainclothes detective, and you're playing the smart but selfish detective, and you're questioning someone on the street. And that's your comedic scene. And then for your more dramatic scene, maybe you want to do that one indoors. Maybe you're playing a teacher in an office and you're doing, again, the loving and determined teacher or something, whatever those other two words were. And so now maybe you're meeting a student in an office and you're trying to help the student, you know, get through something difficult, like you're being very supportive and loving towards the student or whatever. You know, so the whole idea is when you break your words down from that brand process that we came up with earlier, you can kind of work them into the scenes in whatever way makes the most sense or that you want to do. And now, instead of just coming up with completely random off-the-cuff scene ideas that might not necessarily represent you, you know that the scenes that you're using are perfectly tailored to your brand and to your types. So hopefully that process kind of breaks it down. Essentially, if you're working with us at Actor Screener Shoot, once you come up with those general ideas, like, you know, the loving and determined teacher who's maybe speaking to a student in an office, and then the selfish but smart detective who's like questioning someone outside on the street, that's all you need is an idea for a scene. Now you can speak to our writer and they will actually, you know, help flesh everything out and have a meeting with you and go into depth on all of that, okay? So that's the general process. I told you also that I was just going to kind of give you a quick idea on how else you can use those pride words. One cool way is for a headshot session. And actually, just in terms of scenes, you can do the same exact thing. So there's something I teach called the Google image search technique, right? What you would do is you would take your pride words, your dark word, and your types and type them into Google image search. And you can search the word, let's say, selfish in Google image search, and you'll see certain images that come up. Or you could type the word cop, or you could type the word teacher, or like loving, or whatever, right? You type these different words into Google image search, and all of these different photos are going to come up. And you can actually drag and drop your favorite photos, ones that kind of stand out to you, or like, hey, you know, I feel connected with that image, or I like that image. You can drag those into a folder on your computer, and then you can either show them to your headshot photographer, just to kind of give them some ideas of the feelings that you want to emanate in your photos so that you make sure your headshots are capturing your brand. Or you can also give them to us or whatever real production company you're working with. You basically just say like, hey, here's some words that kind of capture elements of my brand. I would love to try to capture this feeling or lighting or coloring or whatever in my scenes, right? So that's the Google image search technique, basically taking intangible words or emotions or feelings and kind of using Google image search to turn them into, you know, physical manifestations that people would be able to understand. It's very simple, and you can definitely use that. The last simple strategy that I'll outline right now, I mean, unless you want to go a lot deeper, I'll tell you a tiny bit more about other stuff in a second. But the last thing that you can do with your pride words is just use them to help you perform better in auditions. A lot of times it can be nerve-wracking to walk into an audition room, or once you're doing a self-tape and you press record and you kind of get this like, you know, like uncomfortable feeling. You can actually close your eyes just for a second and think of those pride words. Like think, you know, smart, and feel smart, and then think loving, feel loving, and then think determined, feel determined. And then you open up and you're much more grounded and you're ready to go, and you've kind of used those words to kind of get rid of all the nervousness or the other feelings that are involved. And so your auditions become much stronger and better. So those are just a couple of little techniques I have for you. Hopefully it was helpful to figure out the, you know, how to break down your brand into scene ideas. Now, if you're interested in anything else, I work with tons of actors, and I have something that goes into a little bit more depth, both on brand and actually how you can connect with casting directors, and even how another technique on getting over audition nervousness. It's called the Actors Toolkit, and I give it away completely for free on my website, martinbenson.com. So check that out. I also send out emails every week with like strategies. I call it outside the industry thinking. I'm not an actor, actually. I studied film directing, but also headshot photography, and have worked with people in thousands of industries through the years. And I've actually learned marketing strategies that work for all these other industries, and I've taken them back and applied them directly to actors. So it's pretty cool. Some of the actors who I've worked with have gotten really cool results in their careers. They've become friends with casting directors, booked like Broadway roles and stuff. So if you're interested in that, again, it's completely free. Would be happy to send it to you. All you got to do is you go to the webpage, you can enter your name and email address, and you'll get instant access to it. And then again, you'll hear from me time to time. You can also, of course, always email me if you have any questions at all as you're growing your acting career. All right. So good luck with that, and hopefully we have the opportunity to work together for your actor screener shoot, or even maybe your headshot at some point in the future. And yeah, we'll be in touch.